You don't notice it at first. The air is still, too still. The kind of stillness that presses against your skin like damp fabric, clinging, suffocating. The cicadas that were screaming just seconds ago, gone. Not quiet, erased. Your ears ring in the absence. A thin, high-pitched whine that makes your jaw tighten without you realizing it. You're standing at the edge of a field. Golden stalks sway under a dying sun, brushing against each other with a dry, whispering hiss. The smell hits you next. Warm soil, sunburnt grass, something faintly metallic underneath it all. It should feel peaceful. It doesn't, because something out there is moving, far away, too far to make out clearly. At first, your brain does what it always does. It lies to protect you. That's just a person. Maybe a scarecrow, maybe fabric caught on a pole. But the more you look, the less those explanations hold together. It bends. Not like a body, not like anything with joints. It twists in on itself, folding, stretching, snapping back in ways that make your eyes struggle to keep up. Like watching a corrupted video file trying to render a shape it doesn't understand. Your vision blurs slightly, your pupils adjusting, straining. And here's the problem. You keep looking. The more you focus, the more your stomach tightens. A slow, nauseating pull, like gravity has shifted just for you. Your fingers twitch. Your breath gets shallow. Something deep in your chest is telling you to stop, but you don't, because you want to understand it. Big mistake. That thing out there, it's not trying to hide. It's not approaching you. It's not even acknowledging you. And somehow, that's worse. Because the moment you try to make sense of it, really see it, your thoughts begin to slip. Just a little at first. A missed connection. A delay between what you see and what you understand. Then another. And suddenly the world feels off. Like your brain is buffering reality. That wasn't imagination. That wasn't the wind. That was your first mistake. What you're looking at has a name. Kune Kune. And here's the part no one tells you up front. It doesn't chase you. It doesn't touch you. It doesn't need to. All it requires is your attention. Welcome. What you just experienced, that was the safest version of this encounter you're ever going to get. Because today, we're not just telling a story. We're dissecting a phenomenon, a distortion that exists somewhere between folklore and cognitive failure. A thing that punishes curiosity. A thing that turns observation into self-destruction. So, before we go any further, take a second. Look around your room. Make sure nothing in the distance is moving in a way it shouldn't. Because once you understand how this works, you don't get to unknow it. In Japanese internet folklore, Kune Kune isn't introduced with the decency of a proper monster. No dramatic entrance. No tragic backstory spoon-fed to you like some haunted Netflix reboot trying to justify its budget. It appears the way the worst things usually do. Quietly, at a distance, in a place so ordinary that your guard drops before your instincts can file a complaint. Picture the setting. A flat rural field. Heat trembling above the soil. The smell of dry grass and damp earth rising together in the afternoon air. Maybe there's a utility pole nearby. Maybe rows of rice plants shifting in the breeze. Nothing cinematic, nothing grand. Just open land, too much sky, and one white shape moving where nothing should be moving like that. That's the pattern people keep reporting. Always far away. Always in broad daylight, or at that ugly hour when the sun is still out, but already feels unreliable. And always white, thin, twisting, bending in a way your eyes reject before your mind even gets a vote. Not because it's fast. Kune Kune doesn't need speed. It wins through contradiction. It moves like a body with no bones, or maybe too many. Like a strip of cloth caught in the wind, if cloth had intent, and if the wind had developed a personal grudge against human sanity. The oldest versions of the story tend to keep one rule intact. You are not supposed to get close. In fact, people around you, grandparents, siblings, some exhausted adult who still has enough survival instinct left to be useful, will usually stop you before curiosity turns into a medical situation. They might tell you not to stare, not to ask too many questions, not to go out into the field, which naturally only makes the human brain want to investigate harder. A truly flawless species, no notes. And that's what makes Kune Kune so effective. It doesn't function like a predator in the usual sense. It doesn't lunge. It doesn't roar. It doesn't leave claw marks on the walls, so your true crime podcast friends can have a fun little theory session later. It simply exists as a thing that should not be observed too closely, a visual error embedded in the landscape, a piece of reality that was folded wrong and left there for someone reckless enough to notice. Some descriptions frame it as a spirit, others treat it more like a curse or a cognitive trap, or the folkloric equivalent of opening a file that your brain was never designed to run. And honestly, that last one feels annoyingly accurate, because Kune Kune doesn't just scare people, it destabilizes them. The danger begins the second your mind stops saying, "That's strange," and starts demanding, "What is that exactly?" That question is the hook. And Kune Kune, whatever it is, seems built to punish the need for an answer. Let's talk about what you think you saw, because your brain is already trying to fix it. That white shape in the distance? Your mind is scrambling to assign it something familiar. Cloth, person, scarecrow, maybe even a trick of the light. It's doing damage control, and honestly, good for it. That's the only reason you're still functional right now. But if you were to keep looking, really looking, those explanations start to fall apart. Kune Kune doesn't have a stable form. Not in any way your brain is comfortable processing. At a distance it's thin, pale, almost delicate, like a strip of white fabric caught in a lazy wind. But the longer you observe it, the more that illusion collapses. The edges don't stay where they should. The proportions don't hold. One moment it looks narrow, almost fragile. The next, it stretches, elongates, like something pulling itself through a space that doesn't quite fit. And then there's the movement. This is where things go from unusual to your perception is actively being insulted. It doesn't sway naturally. There's no rhythm your brain can lock onto, no predictable pattern. Instead, it twists, sharp sudden angles, followed by slow, almost fluid bends, like joints bending where joints shouldn't exist, like a body remembering how to move incorrectly. The more you try to track it, the worse it gets. Your eyes attempt to follow the motion, but there's a delay, a fraction of a second where what you see and what you understand refuse to sync up. It's subtle at first, then your focus starts slipping, not dramatically, not like you black out or collapse. That would be too obvious, too kind. Instead, your vision feels unstable, like trying to read text that won't stay still. You blink more often. Your eyes water slightly. There's a pressure building behind them, dull but persistent. Your ears pick up a faint ringing again, not loud, just enough to remind you something is off. And in your stomach, that same slow nausea returns, heavier this time, like your body is reacting to something your mind hasn't fully admitted yet, because on some level, you already know. This thing doesn't belong to your rules. Even the environment around it feels wrong. The air looks thicker near it, like heat distortion, but sharper, more deliberate. Light doesn't behave consistently. Shadows stretch at odd angles, then snap back. It's not dramatic enough to scream supernatural, but it's just wrong enough to keep your brain from settling. And here's the detail that should concern you the most. You can't remember its exact shape. Try, right now. Picture it clearly. You'll notice something unsettling. You can recall the idea of it, the white color, the twisting motion, but the precise form, it slips. Every time you try to lock it down, your mind fills in gaps with something slightly different. That's not forgetfulness. That's interference. Kune Kune isn't just something you see. It's something your brain fails to hold. And the more you try to correct that failure, the more you stare, analyze, focus, the more unstable your perception becomes. Which leads us to the uncomfortable conclusion. You're not observing it. You're trying to process something your brain was never meant to process, and it's starting to show. Here's where people usually expect the story to escalate. The chase, the attack, the moment something breaks through the distance and makes it personal. That's not how this works. Kune Kune doesn't come closer. You do, not physically, at least. Your body might still be standing exactly where it was, feet planted, shoulders tense, eyes locked forward. But cognitively, you're already moving toward it. Every second you spend trying to understand what you're seeing is another step deeper into something you were never meant to approach. That's the hunting method. No claws, no speed, no dramatic lunging across the field, just a simple, devastating equation. The more you look, the more it has you. At first it's subtle. Your brain starts running extra cycles, trying to solve the shape. It replays the movement, compares it to known patterns, searches for anything familiar, cloth, human, machinery, anything that fits. Nothing fits. So it tries harder. You narrow your eyes, you adjust your focus. Maybe you even shift your head slightly, like a better angle will suddenly make everything click into place, because that's what you've been trained to do your entire life. If something doesn't make sense, you analyze it until it does. That instinct, that's the trap. Because Kune Kune isn't something you fail to understand. It's something that punishes the act of understanding. The longer you engage, the more your thoughts begin to desynchronize. You might not notice it immediately. It starts as small inconsistencies, a delay between what you see and what you process, a sentence forming in your mind that doesn't quite finish, a thought that loops once, then twice, then doesn't quite feel like it belongs to you anymore. You tell yourself to look away. You don't, because now it's not just curiosity, it's compulsion. Your breathing becomes uneven, not faster, just wrong, like your body forgot the rhythm and is improvising badly. There's a tightness in your chest, a pressure behind your eyes that pulses in time with that faint ringing in your ears. The world around you starts to feel distant, like it's being pushed just slightly out of focus. And out there in the field, it keeps moving, unchanged, unaffected. That's the part that should terrify you. Kune Kune isn't reacting to you. It's not adjusting its behavior. It doesn't need to. Whatever process you've triggered is entirely one-sided. You are the only thing changing in this interaction. You are the one deteriorating. By the time most people realize something is seriously wrong, they're already too deep. Their thoughts fracture, language slips, concepts that used to feel solid, distance, shape, cause and effect, start to blur at the edges. And then comes the worst stage. Not panic, not pain, acceptance. A quiet, almost peaceful moment where your brain stops fighting to understand and starts adapting instead. That's when people stop trying to explain what they saw. That's when they stop asking questions. That's when they look perfectly calm on the outside and completely unreachable on the inside. Still alive, still breathing, just no longer operating on the same version of reality as everyone else. And here's the detail that doesn't get enough attention. No one can pull you back, because from your perspective, nothing is wrong. Kune Kune doesn't need to drag you into the field. It doesn't need to touch you. It just waits for you to cross the only boundary that matters. The one inside your own head. This is the part where people get uncomfortable. Not because it's more dangerous, but because it starts sounding familiar. Up until now, it's been easy to keep Kune Kune at a safe distance, out there in a field, somewhere in rural Japan, doing its weird, physics-breaking yoga routine. You could treat it like folklore, a strange story, a cautionary tale about curiosity. But let's be honest, the real horror isn't where it appears, it's how it works. Because what Kune Kune does to you, you've experienced a version of it before. Not in a field, but in your own life. Think about it. That moment when you stare at something too long, an image, a pattern, a piece of information that doesn't quite make sense, and your brain starts looping. You reread the same sentence 5 times, You zoom in on a photo that only gets more distorted the closer you look. You scroll and scroll and scroll, chasing clarity that never arrives. The more you try to understand it, the less stable your thinking becomes. That's not an accident. That's the same mechanism. Kune Kune is just a purer version of it, stripped of context, weaponized. A phenomenon built entirely around one uncomfortable truth. Your brain has limits, and it doesn't handle those limits well. Modern life loves to pretend otherwise. Infinite information, infinite access. The idea that if you just look a little closer, dig a little deeper, you'll eventually figure everything out. Bold assumption, because Kune Kune operates on the exact opposite principle. There are things that do not reward attention. There are patterns that do not resolve. There are questions that actively damage the mind asking them. And once you cross that line, once curiosity turns into obsession, you don't get a warning label. You get symptoms, confusion, fixation, detachment. Sound familiar? That's because the line between external horror and internal failure is thinner than most people are comfortable admitting. Kune Kune just removes the illusion. It forces you to confront the idea that your perception of reality isn't as stable as you think it is. That understanding isn't always a safe process. That sometimes the act of observing something too closely can break the very system you rely on to make sense of the world. And here's the part that lingers. Kune Kune doesn't need to exist physically to be effective. Whether it's a spirit, a glitch in perception, or just a story designed to expose a cognitive weakness doesn't actually change the outcome. Because the moment you internalize how it works, the moment you recognize that feeling of needing to understand something that resists understanding, you've already recreated the conditions. Not in a field, but in your own head. So the next time you catch yourself staring too long at something that doesn't quite make sense, the next time your thoughts start looping, trying to force clarity out of something that refuses to give it, you might want to stop. Not because something is coming for you, but because something doesn't need to. So now we get to the part you actually care about. Not the theory, not the analysis, the outcome. Can you survive an encounter with Kune Kune? Technically, yes. Realistically, that depends on one very uncomfortable variable, you. Because the rules are almost insultingly simple. If you ever find yourself in that situation, standing in an open space, something white twisting in the distance, your brain already trying to make sense of it, there is only one correct response. You don't analyze it. You don't observe it. You don't take a second look just to be sure. You leave immediately. Turn your body, break line of sight, walk away. No hesitation, no curiosity, no ego-driven, I can handle this moment. Just distance, because distance is the only thing keeping this interaction theoretical. The problem, humans are terrible at following simple rules. You'll want to look again, just once, just a little closer, just long enough to confirm what you think you saw. And that's where it begins. Not with a scream, not with some dramatic cinematic failure, just a small decision, a completely normal, harmless thought. Let me take another look. From there, it doesn't feel like danger. It feels like focus, like you're getting closer to understanding something important. Your brain locks in, your attention narrows, everything else fades slightly into the background. The world becomes quieter, not peaceful, just less relevant. And by the time you realize that something is off, you're already past the point where looking away fixes it. Because the damage was never physical, it was structural. You didn't get attacked. You rewired yourself. And here's the worst part. People around you might not notice immediately. You'll still walk, still talk, still function on a basic level, but something will be missing. Your responses will lag, just slightly. Your thoughts will drift in ways you can't quite control. Conversations will feel distant, like you're half a second behind everything. You won't panic. You won't even realize what you've lost. Because from your perspective, nothing is wrong. That's the final stage. Not death. Not madness in the dramatic sense. Just quiet, irreversible disconnection, a version of you that still exists, but no longer processes reality the way it used to. And no one can fix that, not doctors, not time, not distance, because whatever Kune Kune does, it doesn't leave once it's done. It becomes part of how you see. So, let's quantify this, since people like numbers. They make things feel manageable. Survival chance, 65%. And that's being generous. Because survival isn't about strength, speed, or intelligence. It's about restraint. It's about your ability to walk away from something your brain desperately wants to understand, which, statistically speaking, is not a strong point for our species. So here's the only advice that actually matters. If you ever see something in the distance that moves in a way your mind refuses to accept, don't zoom in, don't focus, don't try to figure it out, just leave. Because Kune Kune doesn't finish you, it doesn't need to. It just waits for you to make the one mistake you've been trained your entire life to make. Pay attention. And once you do, you won't be the one deciding when to stop.